When people initially think of the Holocaust, they think of the Jewish lives lost, but the lives of other groups targeted during this genocide are often forgotten. The Roma, or Gypsies, were another group targeted in an event called Porajmos.
In 1725, King Frederick William I of Prussia ordered all gypsies ages 18 and up to be hanged. Also at this time, there was an activity called gypsy hunting. It was a common activity that people would do for fun. This was prevalent until the year 1835. Laws, decrees, and mandates often allowed for the murdering of the gypsies. Hundreds of years ago, non-gypsies tried to change the gypsies by placing gypsy children into houses with non-gypsy children. They tried to change their customs, language, and their clothing and made them attend different schools and churches. During the Holocaust, Hitler targeted the Roma because his goal was to have an Aryan race. This race was blonde hair, blue-eyed individuals who spoke German, which the gypsies did not fit into. They were considered harmful to the good citizens of this area because of this.
The Holocaust was initially imposed because Hitler wanted to create an Aryan race throughout Germany. The Roma, or Gypsies, were not considered Aryan, so they were among the groups targeted. Hitler strove for racial purity throughout Germany. He also imposed the final solution, which would eliminate all non-Aryans, and in this, he would either take the non-Aryans and kill them immediately or send them to concentration camps to be killed.
There are many different methods of genocide during the Holocaust. The most common were the gas chambers. The Nazi soldiers would tell the prisoners that they were going to take a shower, and they would strip them of their belongings and their clothing and shave them. As they entered these gas chambers, they would release carbon monoxide into the air, which killed the prisoners because of the gas. They would also die of suffocation in these chambers because they would fight and climb their way to the top to try to get the last breath of fresh air. They were also beat to death if they disobeyed the Nazis in any way or if they didn't finish their day's work. They died of starvation because they were only given a piece of bread and a bowl of soup every single day, which was not enough to suffice their hard day's work. Also, Joseph Mengele, a famous doctor from this time, did many studies on the prisoners. He was most famous for his different studies on twins. What he would do was take two twins and put them in different rooms. He would beat and abuse the one twin to see if it affected the other one in any way. He would inject eye color into one to see if it would affect the other one, and he would do many other awful things, including freezing experiments and bomb experiments. They would also die on different transportations to the ghettos and to the concentration camps because they did not give food and they did not have anywhere to pee or poop. They also died of suffocation in the cattle cars as well because they placed 80 people in cattle cars that were only used for 12.
Hitler was the main leader of the Porajmos, and he was the person who originally conducted the Holocaust. He was a German politician and military leader. Adolf Eichmann was the head of the Gestapo office, which means he facilitated the deportation of the Roma from the ghettos to the concentration camps. During this deportation, they were stuffed inside of cattle cars, and many suffocated to death. Theodor Eicke, German senior Nazi official, created and expanded Nazi concentration camps, which is the camps they went to where they were beaten to death, starved, or other various methods. Governor General Hans Frank created laws saying that Roma or Jews weren't allowed into the Third Reich of Germany, which was their government. The most well-known doctor at this time, as discussed earlier, was Dr. Joseph Mengele. He would do experiments on the prisoners, mainly twins, that would lead to their death.
The long-term effects of the Holocaust are that present-day governments stray from dictatorship because they don't want their ruler to have complete rule over the country and their people. There is also tension remaining between the Roma and the Germans. Also, there's a Roma Holocaust Memorial Day that occurs in August. There are also many other memorials and holidays that are made because of it.
After the Gypsies were released from the concentration camps, many Roma had problems finding their way back home. They also didn't have a country to come home to. After being released, the Nazis just simply told them to go home. They didn't give them any directions, any shoes, any clothing, or any food. The Gypsies got so weak that some of them even had to leave their children behind because they were too weak to carry them. So they would leave them behind, and either someone else would pick them up or they were left to die. Many lived in fear after because they were scared that the Nazis could come back at any time and take them away from their families again. After the Holocaust ended, the German government created something called the Swiss Fund. The Swiss Fund was whenever they would give money to the Holocaust survivors in order to say, "I'm sorry for what happened." But the Swiss Fund was never publicized, so many Holocaust survivors didn't know anything about it. Also, they had problems with turning in applications because only a select few were selected, and they couldn't turn in their application because they didn't know the information they needed, or they couldn't read and write because they had lack of education.
Our world will never completely understand why the Nazis and Hitler did what they did, killing roughly 11 million people.
Out of these 11 million people, 6 million were Jews. The other 5 million included homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, Poles, criminals, mentally and physically disabled, and the Roma.